Start with point number one, which is you say, even with the retreat, Trump has caused a protectionist shock if the current tariffs just stay in place. Can you explain?
Yeah, so one way to think about it is during the campaign, remember the election campaign, Trump said, well, I'm going to have 10% tariffs across the board and 60% on China. And everybody said, oh, that's too extreme. He's not really going to do that. That's just a campaign rhetoric. And what this supposed retreat is 10% on everybody and more than 130% on China. So what we're actually, in this supposed pause, we actually have tariffs that are beyond what anybody imagined was going to happen. In fact, because of the increase in the tariffs on China, it's not clear that this is less protectionist, that this is less of a burden on consumers than what he had before the sudden change in policy. So this is really, people talk about the infamous Smoot-Hawley tariff. This pause is a tariff rate that is higher overall than Smoot-Hawley.
Wow.
This is a bigger shock to the economy than any trade policy in any country's history, as far as I can figure out. So this is a really big and really destructive deal.
Wow. We've talked to quite a few people. When you put it like that, and that's supposed to be the retreat or quote unquote better position, it's really striking. Point number two, you say this quote destructive uncertainty has increased, and you say that's not the regular uncertainty of the world. There could be another pandemic, right? There could be anything.
Right.
You're saying that's Trump induced. Can you explain?
Okay, so we have this current tariff policy is explicitly it's for 90 days, and then something will happen, and we don't know what comes after the 90 days. Trump doesn't know what comes after the 90 days. Businesses certainly don't know. So if you're a business owner or a manager trying to make decisions, decide on investments, whatever, any investment you make now could turn out to be totally the wrong investment depending on what the tariff policy is. Do the tariffs go up? Do they go country by country? It's a crazy, the world, there's always uncertainty in the world, but now the biggest source of uncertainty is we don't know what will be going on in the mind of Donald Trump 3 months from now. That's no way to run an economy.
Yeah. Then you wrote something that was even more concerning. I will mention also you paraphrased James Carville and said it's the uncertainty stupid, which I think people can grasp, especially everyone's watched the last week. Trump's friends, MAGA allies, bankers, tech CEOs, as well as critics and independent experts. Everyone's on the same page of the obvious uncertainty because you could see them making it up on the White House lawn. But you go on to say we're still at risk of a major financial crisis. You refer to one of the banks that failed early in the infamous '08 crash. You call it the Lehman moment, and how after that there were ups and downs, and then later the full-blown crash. I know you to not be alarmist, and yet you're referring to an alarm of sorts. And so tell us what you mean by that we could still have the big one.
Okay. So, I could say sort of lots of people look at the stock market, but people who really are trying to track what might be happening to the economy look at the bond markets. They look at markets for particularly the sort of thing, not just the sort of big, but they look at things like 30-year bond rates. They look at spreads, all of which have blown out. It really looks like there's a retreat from a lot of the less liquid assets, jargon, but this looks like the lights on the financial system are flashing yellow. There's just a lot of stuff going on that looks very much like the beginnings of a financial crisis, something like 2008. And as best we can tell, the dislocation from these tariffs and the uncertainty is actually really stressing things out. There are key players in the financial system, hedge funds, that are being forced into what amount to fire sales of assets because they're essentially getting margin calls. And it's just the early stages of that, but that's